Welcome to the Valley Today, a public service presentation of KAIL TV. Analog to digital has changed the landscape for broadcasters and end users. Convergence is now the norm. We'll speak with engineer Tom Driggers as we explore the analog to digital changeover. Up next on the Valley Today.
Welcome to the Valley Today, and I have the distinct pleasure of having Tom, engineering, and we are doing another edition of Teck Talk with Tom. And the reason why we're doing this is because it's an ever-evolving process and we're getting close to the end of the year. So there's lots of material to cover and not enough time to do it, Tom.
Yeah, obviously.
But we're going to go with some direct punches at some of the stuff we talked about last time. And first on the agenda today would be the EAS test.
Right.
Now we both know it used to be called the EBS test.
Yeah.
And it's that obnoxious tone you get on your TV occasionally that says this is only a test and it lasts for 60 seconds and it goes beep across the screen. On November the 9th at 2 p.m., all broadcast entities had to do an EAS test. And I believe the purpose of this was to test the system itself across the board for everyone. And obviously for the reasons of in case the president had to get on some sort of system and say there's bombs coming or there's an attack or something like that. So that's part one of my questions. And I'm going to have you fill in after I get done here, so give me a chance.
Okay, I'll elaborate after that.
I understand that this EAS test involved roughly 10,000 broadcasters. Now, those broadcasters included radio as well as TV, correct?
Yeah, radio, television, and cable.
And cable.
Yeah.
And according to the Society of Broadcast Engineers monthly mailer, which you're a part of, they had to deliver a signal to the primary entry points and the National Public Radio, or NPR, squawk channel. And the gentleman who wrote this article goes on to list that unfortunately most of the areas of the country, including the Central Valley, reported that there were issues with double audio being delivered with secondary EAS header codes. And the timing of all of this was a little difficult for everybody, and 15 seconds into the alert, double audio could be produced on some stations. And continuing for the duration of the entire test, and this gentleman also points out that the government had some hand in some of the inability to do this test correctly. So what I'm going to ask you today is, how did it go for you at KAIL? And maybe you could discuss with us some of the inadequacies that occurred during this EAS test. And also what I understand is that this EAS test was originally set up to be 2 to 3 minutes long.
Right.
But they reduced it to 30 seconds.
It was reduced, yes.
So at this point I'm going to throw the conversation to you. Can you tell me about the test, some of these inadequacies that happen for both radio and TV and perhaps cable, and the government not necessarily sending the codes properly? Because it's going to happen again, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, they'll certainly do another one because we've gone through this round. There were failures and some successes, so obviously they'll do it again. What essentially happened on November 9th was the first ever in the history of the United States a test of the EAN code, which is an emergency action alert, which indicates a message from the President of the United States. They've actually never tested this end-to-end from the White House to the end consumer. So essentially what happened is they were originally going to have a 2.5 minute long message from the President that would originate in the White House, so to speak, and then trickle down to all the EAS, primary, secondary, final destination stations, and to the consumer on your TV set or radio. For KAIL, the test actually ran fine, perfectly. Our equipment received the test and passed it along as it was supposed to. That wasn't the case in some larger markets such as LA. The major station there failed the test for some reason.
Yes, and I believe that was in the radio category. Their primary alert station had a malfunction and didn't get the test out at all. And we're talking about the second largest television market and largest radio market in the country.
Yeah, had a failure.
Had a failure.
Somewhere in the origination of the codes and the message audio, computer codes got interspersed in with the message audio, so that tricked a lot of the encoder-decoder systems down the line. So I've still yet to hear an explanation of how that happened. But that said, most cases it worked fine. There were some states that I guess didn't receive the test totally.
Correct.
So they will obviously go back to the drawing board, look at the system, and do the test again at some point.
Yeah, in my reading, I think Utah, for instance, may have been null and void of the test completely. I may be wrong. It could have been Nevada.
There were at least
somewhere
2 states.
In that region.
There were at least 2 states that totally missed the test.
Right. Now, you're going to have a vetting process after this all occurred, and they say that it's going to be roughly 45 days from the date of the test to evaluate all the data to see what may have been wrong. Obviously, the government may have miscued some people with their information, and then each television market or radio market has a primary station that they recall on for these alerts. And I guess FEMA is the big push behind this.
FEMA is in charge of pushing this.
Okay. Yeah. And so that is to get everybody in line. Now, the efficiency of this is the unique part about this thing is that, for instance, in the Central Valley, that we will be converting eventually to a web-based announcement rather than a primary station, I understand. Is that a possibility in the future?
Correct. Besides the usual method we have now of relaying the EAS alerts from station to station and station, so on down the line, they're adding what's called Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, which is an internet protocol-based system where our encoders and decoders have access to alert information via the internet. So this new system can hopefully, in a more quick manner, relay emergency information nationwide.
Well, I'm in the television business as yourself, so I was flipping the dial around for that 30 seconds as fast as I could to see what everyone else is doing. And I saw everything from a well-executed EAS to some double audio in situations, or in some cases, nothing at all.
Right.
So obviously this 45-day vetting process will lead to another national EAS test of maybe perhaps a greater length at some point.
Right, yeah. All the television and radio and cable networks had 45 days to report their results to the Federal Communications Commission, who will then tabulate all the data and try to find out where the weak links existed.
The good news is that everybody in broadcast did their job according to what they were provided, and it's still one of the best alert systems in the country, far beyond iPhones or computers or everything. Everybody's connected to radio and TV mostly still, and it is a very effective alert system, is it not?
Yeah, radio, television are your best situations in an emergency, because as seen worldwide, during major national disasters, cell phone networks go down.
All right.
Broadcast is your communication source for emergencies.
Well, everyone, remember, if you ever see one of these tests again, know that it's in the process of evolution, and it's that obnoxious little code that says this is an EAS test. You'll be seeing more of these in the future because they want to get this down exactly right. With that said, it's a very efficient system, and we'll let you figure it out as we are continuing to do so ourselves. And thank you, Tom, for that.
You're welcome.
On this portion of the program.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back to the Valley today. Again, we are with Tech Talk with Tom, edition number 2 as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
This is an evolving process. We'll probably have many more.
Yeah, many more.
We concluded the EAS test, which, remember, the EAS system is about 50 years old altogether.
Yeah. Well,
we'll set that aside for now.
Yeah.
And move on to another topic that we hopefully are not over talking, but we need to address it, and that's mobile DTV. Mobile DTV. Now, according to my information, there's at least 100 television stations in the country that are up and running with mobile DTV.
Yeah,
and that number is growing.
Growing rapidly.
And the DTV transition was only 28 months ago.
Yeah.
It seems like it was eons ago, but then in retrospect, it seems like it was yesterday. I believe it happened in June of 2009.
Yeah.
But with that came the advent of more channels on the broadcast spectrum.
Right. More channels, more capability.
Not only do you have your primary channels, but you have dot, ones, twos, and threes, and so forth.
Yeah. Or eights in some cases.
Yeah, in some cases. And though it's in its infancy stages for the general public, I think you have some devices that you can show us briefly that are going to be available to the general public soon, because mobile DTV is going to come whether you like it or not in some form or another, and you have a couple of examples.
Yeah, actually mobile DTV came about a couple years ago. What it allows is reception of television stations in fast-moving environments. The sets are now becoming available. RCA has a couple sets available that are available on their website. You can buy these now, www.rca.com. They didn't pay for that. I'm just being informative.
Yes.
So these are portable.
And what I understand is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you have one of these newer units that you got, and it's capable of watching regular TV in a stationary position for those who don't have mobile DTV yet.
Right.
But it also, you can push a button and go to the mobile section and watch the mobile TV people that already have it up and running, such as ourselves.
Yeah, correct. Either these models of RCA mobile TV receivers also receive regular over-the-air digital television. They're not HD, these are only SD, but they will display in a 16:9 format. So you could take these around to the picnic, out in the park.
How about a ball game?
Ball game, which is a really good use.
In the car?
In the car, backseat drivers, or viewers only, backseat viewing only. Watching TV in the front seat as you're driving is illegal.
Now these are the first ones that are available. Obviously they'll go for a metamorphosis of some sort, perhaps get a larger screen or a thinner design and so forth, but this is the beginning of it.
Yeah, this is now finally the beginning of receivers being available to the general public. Just get online and order one. And there's a lot more product coming out in 2012.
Yeah, I believe there's about 1,700 TV stations in the country. With this current article that I was reading, only 100 are prepared at this time, but they're in the larger TV markets and they are pressing forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you go down to San Francisco or Los Angeles, there are quite a few stations now broadcasting in mobile TV format. Washington, D.C. was the big hub of mobile DTV testing recently, and that was quite successful, and people really like to have TV on the go with them. They demonstrated a few handheld individual TVs like I just showed you, as well as cell phones with mobile DTV receivers in them.
Right, so it's not going to be just the devices you showed us. Those are strictly television sets, correct?
Right, these what I showed you are strictly TVs. There'll be TV chips in cell phones, laptop computers,
tablets.
Tablet PCs will have it. USB, what you call a dongle with a little antenna on it. You could plug it into your laptop computer and get TV on your laptop.
And at least the TV sets that you have, one of them I know has an auxiliary port that you could put an antenna on the roof of your car.
Right. This model here, I don't have it with me at the moment, but does have an external antenna with a magnet mount. You could have somebody in the back seat watching this, put the TV antenna up on the roof through the window or the door, and get fairly good reception as you're on the go.
And the other set you had was more of a handheld for going into the ball game kind of a thing.
Yeah, this particular model is battery powered only, no chargers, just carry it around with you and watch TV.
Well, it's an interesting frontier that we're expanding into, and I imagine it won't be limited to just watching television. I imagine that it could involve the internet at some point, or streaming other information that could be piggybacked on the broadcasters. Is that correct?
Correct. If you have an internet-capable device such as a cell phone or iPad, netbook, notepad, laptop, TV stations besides the mobile TV signal will be able to stream applications and widgets and web pages. You'll be able to interact with the TV station as well.
Okay, so TV is not getting any easier to watch. It's getting a little more complicated.
It's getting complicated,
but it is also more accessible in broader reaching categories. Riding in a bus or in a taxi cab or on an airplane or in your car.
Correct. Yeah.
Very interesting. I don't know where it'll all lead to, but how many stations in this market in Fresno, Visalia, Hanford market are currently broadcasting in mobile?
Currently, only KEIL is broadcasting mobile, but a few other major networks are in the works of doing it.
I see.
Yeah.
So it is on the tips of their tongues. They just haven't gotten there.
Right. Just haven't done it yet, but the avalanche will soon come.
And you are a member of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. I imagine that's chit-chat that you have at your luncheons and so forth about these applications.
Oh, yeah.
With the other engineers.
Every SBE meeting, I bring my cell phone with mobile DTV on it and show it off, and they're all oohing and awing over it and saying, we wish we had it now.
Right. Well, stay tuned, everybody, because that's the next hurdle to climb in terms of television viewing in the Fresno market, and this will be throughout the country eventually. And I think it's a good thing, because I myself would love to have that little brown set you got there, and I go to a Fresno State football game, and I could also watch maybe another game at the same time, because we all multitask nowadays. We can't be simply satisfied with what we're watching. We got to have three things going at the same time. So
of course, yeah, you could bring a couple TVs with you, watch the game you're at, and two others.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, thank you very much for the mobile DTV dissertation. And I again, it's kind of like the EAS test. Stay tuned, because nothing is more certain in this business than change itself. Allow me to read for a moment, Tom. This has already happened in Sacramento. Comcast wraps up all digital upgrade in Sacramento. Comcast has eliminated all analog TV channels in Sacramento, California. The system, part of the operator's company-wide Project Calvary initiative, allowing it to launch 18 HD and 2 new standard definition channels. The operator has distributed 46,000 digital terminal adapters, DTAs, to the Sacramento area subscribers, with which let Comcast convert 28 limited basic cable channels to digital. Okay, Tom? A lot said in this article, but it's already happened in Sacramento. They're shutting off the analog on Comcast cable, correct?
Correct.
It's going to go away. In fact, this
away.
article goes further to say by the end of 2012, there will be no more analog for cable TV.
Right. No
Explain
more.
to me what this means, please.
Yeah, so in the original days of cable TV and broadcast TV, all the signals were analog. Cable and TV over the air have switched to digital transmission methods. Cable still has some mix. Most of all you see on cable is digital, and they have a few basic local channels in analog still. You could take a very old analog only TV, plug it into your cable, and get your few local channels.
Probably channels 2 through 13.
2 through 13 basically in most cable systems.
So if you had a TV in the kitchen or in some other room that you just wanted to get some news on or something, you could still do that with your analog sets.
Correct.
But that's going to go away, as it is already done in Sacramento.
Right. So what cable is doing is stripping out all those analog channels and replacing them with digital channels, which they can pack many more channels into the same space that was previously occupied by those analog channels. So what will happen is people will need a digital ready TV if they only want to get those basic local channels, or go to your cable company and get the free DTA box or digital terminal adapter. They usually allow you a couple per household for free as part of your service.
Now, on this television program today, by the time we air this show, this may be in the process of changing or already changing. I believe our target date for KEIL is December 7th of this year, when they will shut off the analog system for us, and we will go to the digital tier and in high definition. It still, you can, I guess if you're a Comcast subscriber, you can go to channel 13 and still get us, but you'll have to have a digital TV set or a converter box to allow that digital conversion to your analog set, correct?
Right. We're dropping our analog channel 13 on Comcast here locally early in order to get an early jump on giving you an HD feed of KEIL's channel 7.1.
Right. And so it's going to mean some people, if they don't react or get the free, I believe Comcast is offering these little converter boxes for free or with a nominal fee to get them converted. So you can make your analog set last a little longer.
Right.
But it is coming faster and faster, and certainly by 2012 everyone will be converted. So what you're saying is that channel 53 is the first one in the market to jettison from analog completely.
Right.
And go to HD and standard definition. And what do they need again to watch us?
They need a free DTA box. They're about that size.
Yes.
Or the full HD box that you can also get from your local cable company, in our case Comcast. Or a digital ready brand new TV off the shelf. You could plug in and get your basic local tier.
And I think we were talking earlier that everybody thinks that if you buy a digital set that you automatically get everything on, just boom, it's done. But because Comcast has different tiers of influence in terms of what you can buy as a consumer, you can go out and buy a digital set and you won't need the converter box, but you'll only be limited to the certain channels that you were originally getting, which are the broadcast channels.
Right, yeah. If you went to the store and bought a TV, took it home and plugged it directly to cable, you'd only get local channels. However, Comcast will give you a free 2 DTA boxes per subscriber home to get a slightly basic expanded set for no extra charge. After that, the additional tiers you need to pay a monthly extra fee for.
Yeah, and by the way, if anyone has any questions, your ability to call KAIL is available to you, and you can ask to speak to our program director, and he'll take you through the process. So Tom, that's the biggie coming is that analog's gone from cable very soon.
Very soon. Yes.
Now, I wanted to bring up one other thing here. We have a convergence of technologies, obviously, and it's so hard to wrap myself around it from time to time because there's so much going on. But recently we celebrated the 150th anniversary of the telegraph machine. And it's the irony of this to me in telegraph is that it was a system where they typed in or tapped in a code to send letters to spell words.
Right.
And that to me just sounds like texting nowadays.
Yeah.
So texting has kind of taken a new form that was inherited from the telegraph machine that was invented 150 years ago.
Yeah, communication systems continue to evolve and basically still do the same thing that they were originally intended to do.
Right, there's the box or the configuration of the device you're holding has changed, but the theory and the idea remains the same.
Yeah.
Sending letters to spell out words.
Right, now we send letters and words and pictures and sound and video.
Right. Now, in the convergence of technologies, as I call it, and it's a convergence, believe me, it's again hard to wrap your hands around it. We've even had to adjust with the. I've gone to the store recently to buy perhaps a VHS DVD combo player to replace the old one that wore out.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing now that the connections are different.
Yeah.
Used to be you had RCA connectors, which was the red, yellow, and white plugs you'd plug into the sets. Then they had the B and C connectors, which were a hollow hole that would fit over a sleeve. And now we're into the USB port connections.
USB, HDMI, DVI.
Oh, please, not
Firewire.
anymore. You're going to confuse me even further. But as being an engineer, you have to live with the old and convert it to the new. And that's the problem that you're dealing with, is all this convergence at once. And the pace of which it's flipping is so fast.
Yeah, there's constant change in all these different formats and connectors, physical or ethereal. We have to deal with that daily, even in this plant. We figure out, well, how do I get this signal of one type to a device of a different type? Well, I'm going to have to buy an interface box that does X, Y to AD and figure out a plan to accomplish that.
Yes, and with considerable expense, I might admit
Sometimes
to also.
expensive.
Yeah, well, I want the general public to get not a fear of watching television, but a grasp of where it's going and how it's getting smaller and easier, sort of, unless you're a guy like me in my mid-50s, and it's hard for me to watch TV sometimes because I don't know how to connect things anymore. Twas a time I just pulled it out of the box, plugged it in, and pulled the knob out.
Yeah.
But there's so much more involved, and we can't cover all of that today, but I did want to involve that last little piece here with you, Tom, is that you're in a state of flux just like I am, and everyone else is a little confused out there in the public. So when you go to your supermarket, your Best Buys, or your Radio Shacks and things like that, do your homework. And if you had a chance to talk to Tom, which you don't, he could explain it, but I'm sure that there's available technicians at these places that can walk you through these things.
Yeah, a lot of the stores do have some good technical support. They'll explain things to you.
All right, well, welcome to the age of convergence of technology. It's ever changing and it's certainly not slowing down. And I thank you, Tom, for your
welcome.
visit today
You're
with Tech
welcome.
Talk number
Good to be
2.
here.